There is not a one-size-fits-all solution to leadership. Discover your inspiration to lead by hearing from those who are in the trenches each day, leading themselves and leading others. We will learn about their unique leadership style and identify the shared qualities between those who do it tremendously well. Welcome to the Lead with Empower podcast. All right, ladies and gents, listeners of the Lead with Empower podcast, after quite the hiatus due to some unforeseen circumstances in 2022, the Lead with Empower podcast is back. We're kicking off 2023 with a little bit of an introductory episode, and we'll eventually share out the plan of attack for the podcast moving forward this year. But we're going to start off with a gentleman I met back in the early spring of 2022. My main guy, Mr. Ron Davis. Ron is the operations manager for Empower Leadership, and we're going to learn a whole lot about that as we get into our podcast episode right here. But I've had the pleasure of sharing many work shifts, many car rides, many great conversations with Ron over the past 12 months, give or take, and super excited to have him as part of the Empower team. Ron, my man, thanks for joining the Lead with Empower podcast. How are we doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me today.
No, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. And listeners, as you'll soon find out, not only with regards to the team building and leadership development experiences, but prior to joining Empower, Ron has a wide range of experience in leadership in the real world, and we're excited to hear about that and how he's going to bring that to the Empower team. But going back, and the situation is always on top of mind. I received one of the form fills from our website, and it was just a hey, contact me form. And so in my normal kind of operation, I sent an email. Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for submitting the form, and it's been received. And, everything that we do, we design the team building experiences for the group. And, a little bit of probably in my, typical state, a little bit of a long-winded email, and got a response back for, oh, hey, I'm not, coming out with any sort of corporate group, just looking to do an adventure with family. And we exchanged a handful of emails back and forth and got to meet probably in March or late March of 2020, when you came out and had an experience on the adventure course, and feel like it's been hitting the ground running ever since. So it's been a great collaboration, great relationship over the past 12 months. But introducing the Empower Leadership Operations Manager, and just a tremendous individual, tremendous leader, Ron Davis. Ron, what's going on tonight? What are we doing over there besides getting ready for a little game of chess later on, maybe?
As always, taking opportunity to utilize my downtime as best as possible, trying to grab a book, learn something about leadership, learn something how I can impact the world, make the humanity better. Believe it or not, it may sound something like a cliche or something like unbelievable, but again, every day I try to be a better person and try to ensure that everyone get the opportunities that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, it's great that I was given the opportunity to just meet you. And I say that wholeheartedly because how the stars aligned in regards to our meeting, it was just an email.
Yep.
And I tell people all the time, passion is one thing. And when I received the email back from you just to have a conversation with me, I could see the passion in your email. And I said, and just looking at that, I didn't know what Dan Jascott did, but I wanted to be a part of it. And so far, and that's what I hit the ground running. That's what I started doing.
No, it's been great. And like I said in the opening, we plenty of time spent together over the year, and it's been a great experience. I know for me, and I know for Empower, and I could probably speak for many of the guests that we've both had the pleasure of working in front of, and team building and sharing our leadership insights with. I want to kind of ask you to think about and reflect on what it's been like for you, as far as being an Empower facilitator last year, and kind of learning, maybe not necessarily, some crazy concepts with regards to leadership that you haven't seen, but maybe a different approach to how to interact with different people, and talk a little bit about, I guess, your early experiences, learning activities, and being in front of, maybe a group of like, 6th or 7th graders for the first time. How much of a learning curve was it for you, getting into, I guess, teaching leadership the Empower way?
Yeah, it was a steep learning curve. I'll be the first to admit. I am a military guy, and I'll forever be a military guy. And when you tell somebody in the military to do something, it's done.
How fast?
or, or there's consequences. And it's funny because we go to these elementary school, or I'm sorry, these middle school programs, and it seems like we're the ones that's taking tasks and orders from leaders. I think demonstrating patience, understanding, just acclimate myself to the civilian world.
Yep.
That's been the steepest learning curve, but I knew that coming out. And that's why this job as an operations, well, first as a facilitator, always been a facilitator first and just serving others. That's why I was so adamant about getting a job like this. Or I was blessed with this opportunity, rather.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, and I agree wholeheartedly. There are times when it feels like we're the one, taking the orders and trying to live up to it.
Right.
What going through, the training for Empower Leadership and kind of those early sessions where it was, more of like, hey, come and observe, right? Come and see what it's all about, get a feel for how an activity might be presented, what a facilitator is looking for, in that activity, and then how to kind of connect the dots between the leadership concept experience during this activity that really doesn't mean anything in the real world, right? From a physical standpoint. And then we try to help participants, connect those dots to whether it be their, life as a young student or an athlete, or maybe a team member with a company. There was one moment that sticks out to me, and I think it'll stick out to you as well, is one of your early shadowing experiences where you participated in a game called In Plain Sight with the participant group. So it was one of your early shadowing shifts. And I remember about 2/3 through the activity, you looked at me like, damn, it's pretty hot in that circle. Talk about, you mentioned the transition from the Marines and the military experience to civilian life. How hard was it for you, to go from, buttoned up order, very explicit chain of command, very directive leadership style, to this, there was a point where I saw you crawling around on all fours looking for a black pen in the middle of a bunch of retired rows. How hard was that transition for you? What kind of self-coaching did you have to implement to maybe make it as smooth as possible?
I mean, you can't take yourself seriously. One, I'm not going to do anything that I'm not going to ask anybody else to do.
Yep.
When we're talking about In Plain Sight, I think it was like, I felt like somebody was giving me that ultimate task that couldn't be accomplished. Put it that way. I'm in the middle of a circle, and I'm going along with the other participants. And the first rule, one of the first rules in regards to In Plain Sight, is no talking.
Yep.
And it was funny because I am this black and white guy in regards to rules and regulations. Yep. I don't want to break any guidelines. And it's funny because you lose sight of the fact that we're supposed to be having fun here.
Yeah.
So as we're going through this In Plain Sight, then I start overthinking it.
Yeah.
And then I start realizing I am just like the participants. I'm learning. And that was the cool thing about In Plain Sight. And that's just this job, is that every day I come to work, I'm just like a new participant.
Yeah. I'm
learning new things, whether it's like patience, like I just said before, whether it's about compromise, setting an example at all times, making sure I'm saying the right things or not saying the wrong things, thinking before I talk. Because like I know, Dan, you can say something that may offend, and you don't get that in the military. It's really direct in regards to what you say. It's really rigid.
Yeah.
And in the civilian world, and that's another a piece of the puzzle that I'm trying to work on, is just that individuals are not prepared to be ordered and bossed around. So, how do I develop another tool that I can better facilitate them? But I'm glad you brought up in plain sight. I can contest that I won't be the first or the last one to
No,
be crawling on all fours.
nope, nope, nope. We've seen it. We've seen people do the worm doing that. We've seen people do,
Absolutely,
taking
absolutely.
steps away and the deep breaths and just to get through and coach themselves through that challenge.
I think one of the things that we learn, this is something that we teach those onboarders in regards to facilitators, uh, the levels of leadership.
Yep.
Level one is holding yourself accountable, and anybody will tell you. Hopefully, I'm saying anybody. I'm speaking general here. Is that the word? You can't kick yourself in the tail.
Yep.
So as you sit there and you're trying to hold yourself accountable and nothing's going wrong, what are you going to do? Are you going to dig within and divert to what you know? Or are you going to take the easy way out?
Yep.
So again, we see that all the time, and that's something that as a true professional myself, just try to hold myself accountable. So
Great. Great. Now you're coming, and we're going to learn a little bit about your experience prior to Empower as we get going with the conversation. But you join Empower with 25 years in the Marines under your belt,
right,
and
right,
both enlisted and as an officer, and
right.
having not lived in that world, I can only assume that you had a tremendous amount of training, both from technical skills and then also with regards to leading yourself and leading other people. Jumping into this new environment, what did you feel like for you personally as a leader was one skill from your military experience that was going to transfer over to this new realm, really, of leadership for you? What was that one thing that you could really kind of fall back on and say, listen, no matter what's going on, I know I have this in the bag. I know this is going to be a strength no matter where I'm at.
That's two parts. I'll be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that I want to clarify. I want everybody to understand. I'm from a small town called Rayford, North Carolina. Population of now is growing. It's at 5,000, a little bit less, 4,700. But I'm pretty sure when I was growing up, it was around like 3,500.
Yeah.
I want to capture that. So I was not used to being around a lot of individuals.
Yeah.
Whether it's different races, different ethnic groups, and nothing like that. I'm from a small town, so again, it's hard to develop and build these skills that you're not that's going to make you this great Marine. It did not happen. I'll be the first to tell you that I don't have a cool story of why I joined the Marine Corps. For me, it was an out.
Yep.
And it's a lot of you see a lot of clients and participants within our program now that's just looking for that out. So I'll say that right there. But two things that stand out as I transitioned from the small town to this huge, not huge, Marine Corps, and then transition to Powers is integrity and initiative. One, being that individual that you want others to inspire to be, doing the right things when you can. And again, we talked about character. Character is defined by those things that you're doing when no one's looking. Mm-hmm. Am I doing those right things that's going to make others want to follow? An initiative. We talked about this on numerous occasions, Dan, you and I, in regards to you can't teach it.
Yep.
Maybe this is a scholar out here that can tell me how to teach initiative, but at this point, all I can do is set the example. So those two things, I told myself, if I demonstrate integrity, giving my best at all times, and initiative, I can move. I can move. I hope I can move in the right direction.
Yep. Yep. And then again, I think on the opposite end of that question there is you have this gentleman coming in with this, tremendous leadership experience and in a very different environment, which we, civilian population, out in fields or out in the woods or in a classroom or a gymnasium, not able to necessarily lead in that driven directive maybe style that worked in the environment of the military. What was something that was a bit of a, I don't want to say like culture shock, but almost a little bit of a surprise for you, maybe that knocked you back and like, oh man, I thought I had this in the bag, but maybe I have some learning and development to do here?
I want to say a lot of times we tend to say that COVID hindered some of the progression.
Yeah,
it's
a fair statement.
But I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm not used to seeing a lot of things. Maybe because I've been sheltered myself, whether being in that small town military, Middletown, Connecticut, or so that's the culture. That was the culture shock. Is just that everybody got so many different personalities, and I'm not I'm not from upstate or, you know, New England area, as we shall say.
Yep.
So that's one of the steeper learning curves is seeing individuals and learning how to deal with them and stuff like that. Yeah.
And do you feel like over the course, I mean, it's been again almost a year of being in front of a wide range of groups from Connecticut, you know, elementary all the way up to the college level, the corporate level, athletic teams. We've had people from, you know, certain areas of New York, you know, Western Massachusetts, Eastern Massachusetts. Do you feel like you're starting to get, or you found a nice rhythm as far as, hey, I'm not changing who I am, and I don't expect the participants to change who they are, but we could still find a way to make it work. And how did you go about, I guess, developing that comfortability, you know, interacting with so many different people?
Our core values at Empower is based off being a lifelong learner, being committed to being a lifelong learner. And I truly feel like when I stop learning and able to grow as a person, as an individual, then I've already lost.
Yeah.
I should just, you know, just sit down and get out of everyone's way. So no, I think that every day that I wake up and every time that I get off work, I write notes down mentally and um, in my journal because I love journaling. I capture those things that what I can improve on.
Yeah.
Again, it can be something simple as just the fact that I still have a North Carolina accent. How do I slow myself down that it can be best received?
Yeah.
You know, how do I enunciate and pronunciate these cool words that, you know, these New England individuals have? But again, you could take an individual from North Carolina, and I still have to slow it down or speed it up. But again, that's always been one of my drawbacks because I'm so hard on myself in regards to um, am I speaking clearly? Do you understand my intent? And we see that happen so often in Empower, where we have a super cool group that's listening to all of our instructions. We have their eyes and ears. They're really attentive. Then you have another group which you may go to, and I'm not saying ages or nothing like that or participants that's so happy or so sad to be there, and they're not really listening to instructions. Now, what is our goal? Our goal is to empower.
Yep.
So how can I empower you if I don't give you instructions? That's just like me giving you the keys to the car and never tell you this is how you change the tire. This is how you turn it on, so on and so forth. So again, how do I clearly articulate the why?
Yeah.
We always talk about the why. How do I articulate the why? And again, I think that's we talked about it earlier. I'm sorry to ramble, but we talked about it earlier in regards to why and how do we get to the why. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned in the civilian world, whereas the military, I just task. In the civilian world, I got to give you the why.
It's got to be task plus why, yeah.
Why.
And this is why it's important to you. This is why it's important to us. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Right. One of my favorite moments again from your earlier time with us starting up, and I was a little concerned, you know, seeing somebody that's, you know, around my age, very different background. I was a, you know, PE teacher, so I was used to kind of, you know, rolling around on the floor, play, you know, light-hearted type stuff. And I wasn't sure how much of that you had in you based on your previous experience, 25 years in, again, a world where maybe it's not as roll around on the floor and play based as a gym somewhere. There was a middle school group that showed up to the ropes course, and you know, I usually pride myself on being like the first person over there at the bus and, you know, high-fiving kids as they get off the bus. And I looked up and you were like sprinting over there, and every kid that came off of the bus who had never met you, had never met me, had never been to, you know, working with Empower, and you're over there like big smile, high-fiving kids. And it stuck out to me, you know, because in order to empower, in order to teach, in order to be part of this dynamic, if there's not some sort of connection, if there's not some sort of trust built essentially immediately, right? Group shows up, and if we don't have them, you know, looking at us as, hey, these guys are going to take care of me, it's going to be a tough 2, 3, 4 hours or whatever the program is. And seeing that out of you was a pleasant surprise. And again, you know, for me, it was a validation of, all right, that there's a little performance involved in facilitating. I feel like, and you showed that you had it. Was that something that, and now that I know you, it seems like it's something that's natural to you to be a social presence, a positive social presence in a group of people. Is that something that you've always had, or is that a developed skill?
No, you know what? I would be, I'll be a complete liar if I didn't tell you that I probably hit behind the porta john and try to ice my leg up as I ran towards the bus, and I got cramps in my back, my lower back, and my legs. You know, you know, I sprinted with vigor, and
Yeah.
I ended up almost destroying myself. But no, I've always been a people person, because I love the fact of seeing people getting what they want out of life.
Yeah.
I love being part of happiness. Not something I run towards adversity, but I'm willing to put myself at friction points. But no, it was a skill learned, because I feel me adopting this democratic leadership style, willing to get buy-in and stuff like that. I've always been a people person in that aspect, which allowed me to sit there and build off that in regards to just engaging individuals.
Yep. And I think as we both see and continue to see in the groups that we work with, it's huge. Those first 2 minutes, those first 90 seconds of them entering a gym or the conference area that we're working, if we're not a smiling face, and if we're not, I guess, beaming with that exceptional, like we're gonna make this an awesome experience for that exceptional customer service, it's tough sledding moving forward. And I think that translates to leadership in any realm, whether it's as an educator or as a coach. If you can't foster connections, you're gonna I think is one of your sayings, you're leading, you look up and nobody's behind you.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think, and people laugh at it, but I think service comes with a smile.
Yep.
I think individuals, and we talk about it all the time, when we run these different programs. Smiling is contagious.
Yep.
Having an attitude is contagious. Okay, what do you want to project? I want to project this individual that's all about empowering individuals.
Yep.
Well, how do I do that? First, I'm gonna start off by greeting you,
yep,
and doing those right things that you feel like, you can listen to me. And we've seen it before, where individuals get off the bus. Ron is high-fiving them. They were like, they're not feeling Ron today, but they feeling Dan today, and vice versa. And I think that's a great thing about having those individuals that's empowered, through empowerment. Is just that, you and I have a connection in regards to, maybe Ron is not the, is should be facilitating pipeline or something else in between. But again, it's great seeing individuals attach to certain individuals, and realizing it has nothing to do with you. That's another sticking point that I had to learn with later on. I used to tell myself, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? Is it Dan? Is Dan's doing something wrong? How can we better facilitate individuals? But again, that's another sticking point that we work through. And it's not taking yourself seriously. It's not about you.
Yep.
It's never about you. As a leader, it's never about you. As a leader, you should be trying to figure out, how can you create other leaders?
Yep.
And I think we do a great job at doing that.
Agree. And what you just said, that concept of inquiring, I think, and we've spent a lot of time doing that in car rides and in before programs and after programs, just thinking about, hey, asking you a question. Hey, what were you thinking when you said this? Or what did you see that led you to make that adjustment, and vice versa, those back and forth conversations. And also, I think having the conversation with the participants, knowing that, hey, we have a contract and agreement with your teacher, but we also want this to make this experience as best as it can be for you, the participant. What do you want to get out of it? What type of activities do you involve? Do you like participating in? And again, another valuable skill of a leader is not, we're doing this because it's inquiring what's going to bring the best out of the people around us, including each other, the facilitators, and how do we make it the most productive, energizing, enthusiastic, and meaningful learning experience, whether it be a 40-minute block with one group or a 5-hour program with a group.
Absolutely. And it goes right back to another core value of ours in regards to safety and security. Again, it is as a facilitator, especially under the umbrella of Empower, it's my job to know how to keep you safe and do those things that's going to benefit you. Again, the way we do things is like high intensity training. Some individuals call it HIT. You're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Yep.
And we tell individuals that constantly. Again, I'm an individual that I always look at the big picture. I try to push the individuals. Don't let the tree get in your way. Take a step back, look beyond. And I think we're winning once we get out once we introduce and we give them that why, and tell them to take a step back and have fun, enjoy it. Listen to the instruction first, but you're going to enjoy it. But you're going to get out of there. You're going to get out of this situation. Not how to learn how to balance a tennis ball on a balancing board, nor are you going to trolley walk. These are things that are probably not going to be in the civilian world. But command presence, initiative, motivation, encouragement, those things that you can perfect here, not perfect, work on here and develop here, can easily translate to the real world.
Oh, 100%.
When we say those things, I'll be lying to you if I said I wouldn't write notes down myself that I could take away from those great engagements.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're gonna again kind of give everybody a little outlook for the year moving forward, but I've gotten to know the Ron Davis of we won't say age. He's a couple of years older than me. I will sneak that in there.
I don't look
it. But 25 years in the Marines, about half as an enlisted Marine, about half as an officer, coming from a small town. I know you were involved, in high school athletics, and then pretty much graduation, and then right to, the life as an enlisted Marine. Talk a little bit about, obviously our past experiences shape who we are, and it shapes what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and how we look at things and how we treat others. Give everybody just I think a quick little backstory about some of the experiences that have created the Ron Davis that we're sitting here talking to today.
Absolutely. My strength comes from adversity, and I'm not saying my stance and my leadership is evolved off of negativity. And what I mean by adversity, you think about the fact that, in combat, in real world combat, I'm leading a platoon of 100. Mm-hmm. These individuals I'm personally responsible for. If something happened to that Marine, that sailor, that soldier, I'm responsible in regards to, I have to let their parents know. Mm-hmm. So again, when we're talking about tasking and we're talking about mentoring and developing, these are things that I took really personal.
Yeah.
And again, we talk about spreading yourself so thin, because I'm one of those individuals that I want to listen to him. I want to listen to her. I want to find out how can I better facilitate. But again, it thins you out. It burns you out.
Yeah.
My 25 years in the Marine Corps, it was a slow burn at first. But those last couple of years, I'm not going to lie, my feet was held to the fire in regards to how many things I had coming at me. But I will say this to you, Dan. 20 individuals that I came into the Marine Corps with, 20. I know all of them personally. 10 of them from North Carolina. I'm the only one out of that 20 that stayed in the Marine Corps. And I would tell you that more than half of those individuals that got out of the Marine Corps, the same time it took me to retire are same times that they spent in jail.
Wow.
You equate. I get out the Marine Corps to retirement. They're getting out of jail with nothing.
Yep.
So when you talk about adversity, I just didn't want to go back to that small town.
Mm-hmm.
Nor did I want to go back to or being criminalized or stigmatized as this criminal. But also, too, I wanted to be that beacon for others like myself. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be that individual that my mom and dad could be proud of. And so far, I've done those things. But I tell you what, like the shaping of Ron, it's a lot of things that go into it besides adversity. Just the trust that individuals give me, that willingness to depend and trust me to do right by them. Those things are what shaped my leadership style and what shaped the person I've come to be. And I have a long way to go. Don't
we all do, man?
Yeah, the military talks about the last thing you should do about, what the military, not the Marine Corps, not the Army, not the Navy, not the Air Force or Coast Guard, Department of State. But what they tell you is, once you do your 4 years or 25 years, you are to become a better citizen. Mm-hmm. What does that entail? If I haven't did anything for the past 24 years or 25 years when I retired, what am I going to do? How am I going to contribute to society?
Yep.
If I'm not learning these concepts, these core values, and these things that I hold dear to myself, as well as my all the civilians in the world. But again, I was basically shaped off billet description. I mean, billets, assignments, adversity, as well as just trusting individuals. I don't know if did I answer your question with that,
Yeah, no,
Dan?
100%, 100%. And the decision to join the military out of high school,
Mhm.
and you mentioned earlier that was like the out for you,
Right.
was put yourself back in like 17, 18-year-old shoes.
Mhm.
What was going on in your head? Like, was it excitement? Was it anticipation? Was it fear, anxiety, a combination? Like, because a lot of the people that we work with are entering that time in their life where it's, do I, I graduate high school? Is it a job? Is it going away to college? Is it commute? And that's something that I think people struggle with, is the unknown. And that's the biggest source of a lot of fear that we face is, if I do this, I don't know what's going to happen. What were some, obviously you made the decision. How did you coach yourself into the fact that I'm doing the right thing? It's going to be hard. It's going to be very uncomfortable at times, but I know it's going to do right by me in the long run.
Right. So let me say this right here. So a lot of individuals look at wrestling as an individual sport.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't look at wrestling that way. I was number in 1996 in North Carolina. I was number one in the state in 140 class, and it was all about beating my opponent.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't worry about my teammates; they were going to do what they needed to do. Again, I'm just wrestling, and that sums up my leadership. It says no I in team, but it is an ME in team. And the funny thing about the whole situation with wrestling and stuff like that, I was just trying to make myself better. But then I quickly realized that when I was teaching individuals how I was winning, I started being a better person and learning even better moves. I brought more tools because they was able to give me those things.
Yeah.
But this individual, you take that individual, that young 17-year-old that graduated high school, and said, I want to give the world a try. Trust me and believe me when I tell you that it was all accidental. it was not planned. I'm not gonna. I remember my first duty station going to Jacksonville, North Carolina, and I fell asleep on the trip, and I thought that we was going to Jacksonville, Florida, because I didn't even know it was in Jacksonville, in North Carolina. But I woke up to strip clubs and other things, but not tattoo parlors.
Yeah.
And all of those things were foreign to this young country boy that
Yeah.
used to raising cows and pigs. I mean, seeing a tattoo in a tattoo parlor was kind of crazy. But again, I've seen a lot of crazy things in the military I've never been exposed to. But to truly home in on your question to ask about my fear, I mean, what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I guess that's how I strived, because I think that if I would have saw all the things that I would have had to do, I would have said, you know what, I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take my services somewhere else. But I truly believe in a higher power. I truly believe that I'm blessed, and I was led to go to the Marine Corps, where I did exceptionally well, enlisted and as an officer. I did really well. But again, I want to say blind faith, but I don't really believe in blind faith. I truly believe that hard work and dedication to your craft will make you strive no matter where you be. So I got lucky. I
Not
got
it,
lucky.
well, but you did, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I'm gonna say that you didn't, just because I think what you just wrapped it up on. And for those of you listening, like, people always ask us, what's the hint, or what's the trick to this activity or that activity? And my simple response, and it usually doesn't result in a good response from the participant that asks, is there's no trick. It's working hard. It's trying to hone in your craft, being decent to the people around you, being a good teammate. Maybe taking failure and saying, you know what, it's an opportunity to get better, as opposed to an opportunity of running away. And it sounds like you did those things as a high school graduate, and the path ended up working its way because of the effort that you put into becoming a better leader, a better Marine, a better version of you, and how you treated people along the way. And that's if we can get anything across to the people that we work with, it's that
Yeah,
work hard
we
and
sorry.
be good to the people around you.
I apologize for that, Dan. I apologize for cutting in. Now you're absolutely right. I think that we talked about that unbeaten path.
Yeah.
I mean, we a lot of individuals choose to go down the unbeaten path, and they face all this conflict and strife because they deviate from the norm. for me, I deviated from the norm to a point whereas, nobody that I knew personally could guide me.
Yeah.
I had to, look within myself and try to be a better person. But, for that individual, that's want to go to the military, decided, that's the only option they have. I'll say this right here. Do you want to travel? Yes. Do you want a free education? Yes. Do you want to do all those things? You don't have to go to the military to do that.
Yep.
That's what I would say to you. I'm not a recruiter for anybody. I'm a recruiter for empowerment.
Yep.
What are you looking for in life? Are you looking to have an enriched life, a fulfilling life? And I'll tell you one thing, that finances never put me in a situation where I was passionate.
Yep.
I mean, maybe because I'm not a billionaire, but I tell you what, I I have more fun engaging with individuals and stuff like that.
That's great. No, that's great. And we're close to the tail end of the podcast right here. We have a few minutes left. This is for those of you listening and for those of you that have listened to past episodes. So moving forward, Ron and I are going to get together once a month for the Lead with Empower podcast. We're going to bring our different, insights and maybe some of our backstories into each episode. We're also going to tie in, what we're seeing and what we're, maybe teaching through the Empower programs. And we want to highlight some of the groups that we work with and some of those leaders, whether they be the group organizers or the actual participants. But our aim with this podcast for 2023 is to spread positivity, to spread empowerment, and to spread, I think, that mindset that no matter what age you are, no matter how athletic, how intelligent, what your strengths and weaknesses are, you have the potential to do great things for yourself and more importantly for the people around you. And it's going to be, I think, a great journey in 2023. Really excited, Ron, to have you as part of the Lead with Empower podcast moving forward, and more importantly, as part of the Empower team. It's been a tremendous learning experience. I hope for you, but it definitely has been for me as well. And looking forward to continuing to build upon the successes and some of the challenges that we had in 2022 and make 2023 the best year of Empower yet. For you personally, as stepping into this role as operations manager, knowing that it's going to be a little bit more responsibility, there's going to be a little bit more time in front of participants, leading our activities. What's one thing that you're most looking forward to for the coming year here?
Being a better person.
Yep.
Always is my point. How do I become a better person? How do I put myself in a situation to be more approachable, more understanding, more passionate, more patient with individuals? How do I do those things? And I'll say this, Dan, before our time, because I know we're short on time. I'll ask those individuals that we're talking to on this podcast. We want to empower you. What does it take for you to be empowered? Do you need instructions? Do you need guidelines? Do you need recommendations? What does it take for you to be empowered? There's one thing about going a long way, but it's even worse thing when you're going the wrong way. Think about what I said. Think about what I just said. I can let you go as far as you want to go. But what I want to do is challenge you to understand this right here, that a lot of individuals have walked down that same path, drove down that same path, and are willing to give you enough time, enough guidance to better facilitate you. I challenge you to let us.
Awesome. I love it, Ron. And hey, this is a great introduction. Everybody will be hearing more from Ron and myself moving forward. We'll be on the pace of about once a month. This episode is going to be listed on our podcast hosting site on the website, and we're also going to start adding video recordings on our YouTube channel. We'll get all that information out in the show notes. And Ron, man, as always, a pleasure spending a few minutes talking shop with you, and
absolutely
look forward to a great 2023. And for everybody listening, a lot of great stuff right here. But I love Ron's challenge. What are you going to do to empower yourself to become the best version of you and help the people around you become the best versions of themselves? Great leadership may look and sound different. However, there are common threads that connect all tremendous leaders. They are passionate about those that they lead. They do that which brings out their best and the best in those around them. And they never take the easy way out, because the exceptional will never come from easy.